Well, there you have it. Don't ask, don't tell. Anytime this story comes rearing back as a cultural football, again, these issues that they use to divide and conquer all of us, when ultimately the families and the elites and the multi-generational serial killers, they don't give a damn about those things, but they know you do because they've taught you to. I can't help but always think of the late, great Bill Hicks. Anybody dumb enough to want to be in the military should be allowed to be in the military. Not to be too offensive to anyone out there, but there it is. I won't quote anymore. Let's continue the warwhores updates. And we'll jump to raw story on the doctor who inspired the torture program now getting a $31 million Army contract. Psychologist whose research was used in constructing the U.S. program to torture terrorism suspects has been granted a $31 million no-bid Army contract to provide resilience training to U.S. soldiers. Mark Benjamin on Salon.com reports that the University of Pennsylvania psychologist Martin Seligman's research formed the psychological underpinnings of the Bush administration's torture program. In 2009, the New York Times described Martin Seligman's small but crucial role in the establishment of the enhanced interrogation techniques used on terrorism suspects before the techniques were suspended in 2008, with another long quote, of course, connected to CIA psychologists. There is a very real element of scientific dictatorship honed and practiced mind control techniques that have been going on for decades now. These things are replete within these stories. We always want to mention, I forget the guy's name, but of course the idea of using audio spotlights to beam audio into your head, beaming your favorite deity up into the sky that's been, of course, seeded with aluminum and barium to have a holographic projection. These things are all the Blue Beam, PSYOP, Fake Rapture, War of the Worlds with the anniversary Halloween weekend coming up next weekend. Something's ripe. Something's getting ripe and smelling ripe. But I digress, and we'll save that for next week. Pentagon plans their record $60 billion weapons sale to Saudi Arabia. That's from the Washington Post. Of course, they made sure to get Israel's approval first. Danger Room reporting that Donald Rumsfeld, the man who brought you aspartame and armed North Korea and so much more, he is now reemerged on the web, on Twitter, on Facebook. You can follow Donald Rumsfeld and all his foundation-funded, think tank-connected corporate administration revolving door cronyism. And we mentioned it last week. Here it is on the record. Yet again, I had to chase the article around. Soldier says he was ordered to delete Fort Hood videos. CIA sues ex-agent for book's breach of secrecy. No, this is not about Operation Darkheart and Lieutenant Anthony Schaefer and his connection to Able Danger. This is about the CIA filing a breach of contract lawsuit against a former deep cover agent who's published a book critical of the agency without allowing CIA censors to remove large portions of the manuscript before publication. Ishmael Jones, pen name for the 20-year CIA veteran and Arabic speaker who said he sought to expose corruption in the agency, is facing a civil lawsuit over his 2008 book, The Human Factor: Inside the CIA's Dysfunctional Intelligence Culture, with the emphasis on cult. More on David Headley. Scout in Mumbai attacks was DEA informant while in terror camp, authorities say. That's from the Washington Post. An intelligence-connected informant was inside provocateuring what would be a national, international terror event, the Mumbai attacks. And in every case of a terror event, the big ones with capital letters and their own graphics on the 24-hour corporate-controlled threataganda media machine, always informants connected. Always intelligence connections, patsies and useful idiots and double agents and dupes and cutouts and all of those things, again, as we say time and time again here. You see it in films all the time, but you don't think these things play out. Art imitating life, imitating politics, imitating Baudrillard, copy of a copy. So there's two there. The one from the Washington Post about David Headley, DEA informant, and more inside the Mumbai plot. We also have it from Al Jazeera. FBI was alerted to Mumbai plot. So you have insider, informants, forewarnings, prior knowledge, before and after the fact. Our last War Whores note on this posting of Obama-Messiah, War Whores updates, selective service, and you can take the selective service any number of ways. Where we jump to, the Foundation-funded, CFR-connected Huffington Post. Clinton officials suggested letting U.S. plane be shot down to provoke war with Iraq. In the publicity sheet that St. Martin's Press has been sending out to spur interest in General Hugh Shelton's new memoir, Without Hesitation, The Odyssey of an American Warrior. The last highlight is a doozy. A high-ranking cabinet member suggests intentionally flying an American airplane on a low pass over Baghdad so as to guarantee it will be shot down, thus creating a natural excuse to retaliate and go to war. I'm fairly certain we've heard this story before, and it's already made the rounds out there. And we've seen these stories time and time again throughout history. Power-mad gangsters engineer events to further their control and agenda. That pretty much goes back to some type of eugenics-connected op where they want to get rid of you so they can have the resources. Tell us all to live for today. But they're building seed vaults. Is that all I have to say about that? I think so. I suppose the thing to mention would be to say, check out Corbett Report's article and video, When False Flags Don't Fly. A recent overview of some of the historical and contemporary events, the big terror events that, again, always have intelligence connections, always have forewarnings, always have prior knowledge, always have accessories before and after the fact, destruction of evidence, and they're always used to fast forward some type of agenda move that, again, inevitably always comes out that they were already planning for, whether they were amassing at Afghanistan, already had the Patriot Act written and on the shelf, waiting for catalyzing catastrophic event. So, speaking of such events, and again, all swirling around these times, we'll return to my home state of West Virginia, where we have the former governor resigning and running for the late Robert Byrd's Senate seat. So that's Governor Joe Manchin, Democrat, running against John Racy, well-funded GOP. But there are two third-party candidates. Jesse Johnson, who I am connected to on Facebook.com/Media Monarchy. Jesse for U.S. Senate. And we get this story from the West Virginia Gazette, the Charleston Gazette, WVGazette.com. Jesse Johnson, third-party West Virginia Senate candidate, questions 9/11 account. A third-party candidate in West Virginia's U.S. Senate race questions whether the September 11th attacks were masterminded by Osama bin Laden and carried out by al-Qaeda terrorists. Mountain Party nominee Jesse Johnson told the Associated Press that he is also not convinced that hijacked airliners caused the collapse of the buildings at the World Trade Center. Calling 9/11 a crime of the century, Johnson said it has never been investigated. He discounts the work of the bipartisan commission that issued a 585-page report on the attacks in 2004. Johnson at first declined to say what he thinks happened or who was behind it. He later said he didn't know who the culprits were, but he also questioned why U.S. air defenses did not stop the hijacked planes. I believe I saw some bit of backpedaling going on following this story. And the one comment that we do have on this posting, Jesse Johnson questions 9/11 account, gets into no quotation marks and all of these other things that swirled around this story and maybe what he did or didn't say. Could this be another example of someone speaking their mind, and then when they get called out and it raises the uproar, especially when you're talking about 9/11 crazy conspiracies, like the commission report, a lot of folks backpedal. So, again, you can see the links, and I don't have time to break down this whole Daily Mail, Gazette, Associated Press story. But thanks to the comments there. And again, implore you to make comments, make contact any way you can over in the Media Monarchy Kingdom. So whether he backpedaled or not, we have the link up to C-SPAN. They have the full West Virginia Senate debate where, again, Joe Manchin, John Racy, Jesse Johnson of the Mountain Party, but there was also a fourth guy. And I watched about the first 15 or 20 minutes of the debate, and that was all I got several nights ago. The fourth guy, the Constitution Party guy, his beginning was kind of embarrassing, and I almost had to turn away and couldn't really look at him. I was listening, but he just wasn't well-spoken. He was maybe really nervous. I don't know. I wish I would have stayed tuned that Monday night, because then I would have scooped what ultimately We Are Change Branson did and got the video where in this debate, Jeff Becker, running for Senate in West Virginia in the Constitution Party, raised questions about the foreknowledge of Building 7's collapse on September 11th during a live televised debate that was carried nationally on C-SPAN. Indeed, even he announces proudly at the top of his very own homepage calling for a new Senate investigation of 9/11, or just a straight investigation. That's a little garbled. We need to take a first-hand look at what happened on 9/11. There were actually 3 buildings that collapsed on September 11th. So again, had I been a little more diligent, I would have scooped this story, and it would have been very fitting, because again, this all connects back very intimately, in a way, back to my home state of West Virginia. So one way or the other, both of the third-party candidates in the West Virginia Senate race are, to some degree, 9/11 truthers. So let's hear a little bit from Jeff Becker of the Constitution Party, running for the Senate seat in West Virginia, talk about the official 9/11 conspiracy.
As a former member of the Air National Guard and as a member of the Constitution Party, what is your position on the continued buildup of American troops in Afghanistan?
I think we need to first take a look at what happened on September 11th. There were actually 3 buildings that collapsed on September 11th.